My next guest, host of the Athletic Football Show. Gosh, this is really annoying me today. Hold on. Robert Mays is here. You were also at Super Bowl. I also didn't see you. Where were you hiding?
I was around the corner from you. You guys had that big old fancy set over on the left side. We were tucked behind the Toyota truck on the other side of Radio Row. So as far as Radio Row goes, we were pretty far away from each other.
What was Radio Row like? I mean, and are you a slam dunk New Orleans? I mean, you're a foodie, so I can't freaking imagine you'd have the best week ever.
It's my favorite city in America. I've long thought that. I've probably been like 7 or 8 times now. I used to go down just to do one-off Saints games when they were in the playoffs, 2017, 2018, and I just fell in love with it. I love the food. I love how the city is set up. I love how walkable it is. I love the people. Yeah. I went down there for my bachelor party 2 years ago with buddies. Like, I just, any chance I have to spend more time there, I do. I was there for 11 days this time around. My wife and I went the weekend before.
You went the weekend before?
Yeah. We got there we got there 10 days before the game because my wife had never been.
I'm still like swollen from the sodium in this. I don't think
bad.
If you don't live there, I don't think you should be allowed to stay there for an entire week. Like, I think there should be a statute. The fact that you were there for 11 days is insane. I was there for 8, and I feel like I've been hit by a bus in the best way. I need to know the best thing you ate. Me, Giacomo's, always. Anything on the menu, my favorite. What was the best thing you ate?
Giacomo's is great. I haven't been there in a while, but I've been there before. I went to a place called Mosquito Supper Club when I was there.
Okay.
And it's like a kind of a communal dining, like family style thing where you go with a group of people, but they sit you at a communal table and everyone just kind of shares like huge plates of food. And so the first course came out and it was a plate of like pickled shrimp and fennel, like cold.
Yum.
And then there was a bowl of blue crab claws just in butter and like red pepper flakes.
Stop.
It was insane.
We have a picture of something. What was on your? Do we have a picture from his tweet or his? What is this?
Oh, that's a different meal.
Okay, what is this?
So that was a place called Queen Trini Lisa. That's a Trinidadian restaurant.
Oxtail.
And
I'm out.
I went alone, but I wanted to try everything. And so the man at the register was like, "Here are the 3 specials," and I was like, "Yeah, I'll just take all of them." He goes, "You want all that food?" I was like, "Wait, I want to try it. Like, whatever I don't finish, I'll take with me and I'll give to someone." And that's exactly what I did. And when I ordered it, they asked if they could come out and take a picture of how much food I ordered. So I wasn't sure if they were impressed or horrified by what I did. I think it was probably a little bit of both.
Do you gain weight on these trips? Like, how much weight do you think you put on? Collectively, as a sports media group, how much weight do you think everyone put on?
I would put it as a percentage. I'm assuming everyone gained like at least 3% of their body weight. So what I do on those trips is it requires a lot of management. So I walked probably like 6 or 7 miles a day when I was there, and I worked out every single day, like a 45-minute cardio of some kind.
Okay.
And so the damage I did was mitigated, but I still wasn't feeling great when I got home.
So I got there on Sunday. NFL Honors was Thursday night. I had a dress. I broke the dress. I'm not kidding, because I'm sort of I'm very petite, so I put on weight in a hurry. And New Orleans is just like there's no other way to operate. You just have to.
I brought 2 suits.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I
brought 2 suits.
I broke a dress and then wore another one, and it all worked out fine. But I literally had to have a burner dress because I knew, and a tailor on standby to let stuff out, because that's New Orleans, and there should never be a Super Bowl in any other city than New Orleans, in my opinion. And there's not a close second. Do you have a close second? I was asking, I forget who yesterday. Yeah. Sorry, Niners.
I've enjoyed some of the other ones. Like, I remember I had a good time at the Houston Super Bowl when it was there. But in terms of how the city is set up, the offerings that it has, like, there's nothing that's even in the conversation. I mean, I think Vegas is interesting just because it is all centrally located and they are set up to do it. But it doesn't have the charm that the New Orleans one did.
I feel like
that would be fun. I think that,
I think so, too.
To me, it's a matter of, can the city kind of absorb the amount of people coming in and not have it feel completely ridiculous. And I think the way that New Orleans is set up, because they have so many huge events, they're able to do it. Like, it's the perfect mix of a city that's small enough to get around, but a city that's ready for that influx of people. And there just aren't that many cities like that.
On Saturday afternoon, but other than that, it was a perfect experience. I love it. It's the best Super Bowl city. We'll see what since the last New Orleans Super Bowl, the only one I've missed was Bay Area. I missed that one. Should I be excited for it? No?
Sure.
Oh, man.
It's too spread out. It's just too spread out.
I might go to All-Star NBA this weekend. It's in San Francisco too. Yeah, I don't like LA. I'm not excited for. Sorry, LA. Like, not excited for that at all. But Nashville might be fun. Okay, let's get into some of this. The 2024 season is gone. Let's talk about off-season storylines because Sam Darnold. We're going to start with Sam Darnold, free agent. We're going to get into some of these quarterback carousel roulette vibes. Do you think he's better off staying with the Vikings? Does he stay there for less money? Does he get a bigger contract for another team? What happens with Sam?
It's going to be hard, I think, for them to find a middle ground that makes sense, where they don't want to pay him for several years and have him be on the books for several years because they have a rookie quarterback contract waiting in the wings. So for him to get a deal that he's happy about and that makes sense for the Vikings, that middle ground is just tough for me. I think the Vikings are a team that has been steadfast in their plans and how they wanted to see this through. They moved on from Kirk Cousins because they were trying to get onto a rookie quarterback contract timeline where they could pay other people, they could fill out the roster with free agents. To me, the best example is they trade away all these mid-round picks last year to go and move up for Dallas Turner. Part of the justification for why you can do that, despite having holes on the interior of the offensive line, holes on the interior of the defensive line, a secondary you need to remake this offseason, is that you were going to have money to spend in free agency. If you spend $30 million on Sam Darnold this year, you no longer have that wiggle room to improve other areas of your roster. So I know it's hard to move on from a known quantity that played well to go to somebody you've never seen play in this offense. But if you've seen the way that this offense has lifted quarterbacks over the last 3 or 4 years, that's the bet that you make. You bet on Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and the infrastructure to lift up J.J. McCarthy in the same way that it was able to lift up Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I talked to Justin. He really likes Sam. It's not just a show. Like, he believes in him. I think he believes in any quarterback because he's so confident in what he can do as the best receiver. It'll be super interesting to see. You know, I'm looking for those off-season workouts. Are JJ and Justin hanging out? Are they vibing? And we'll see what happens. But the Sam. I mean, he lost himself so much money, and Justin had no answer for me. I was like, "What's your argument that he can win a big game?" It's tough. It's like a tough indictment on our guy Sam, but I wish him well. Of course, we'll see what happens to him. Other quarterback stuff going on. We caught, me and Cal here, we're listening to you, Super Bowl week. We caught a little like Matthew Stafford, good fit to Pittsburgh. What's the energy there? That would be an insane trade.
That to me feels like the best pairing. If he's going to move on, if the Rams are going to move on, we've talked about this with the Steelers for a while. They make all these smart kind of marginal bets. That's what Russell Wilson was. If you can pay a quarterback $1 million, Russell Wilson was better than $1 million worth of quarterback last year. But by making all these kind of smaller marginal bets, they never really go that far. Like, even if you total them all up, it's really incremental. I think they need to do something that feels a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more drastic to try to get the most out of this version of the roster. Either you have to break up this version of the roster by trading a TJ Watt or somebody like that to reset what you are as a franchise, or you have to do enough at quarterback to try to maximize this for one last run. And there aren't that many guys that I think you could talk yourself into fulfilling that second path, but I think Matthew Stafford, even at this stage of his career, would be a worthwhile swing for a team that's in the position that the Steelers are in.
They have 14th most cap space, just under $41 million. That's per over the cap. I would love to see Stafford and Kupp be like a package deal. What about that to Pittsburgh? What do you think?
From a football level, I actually think that does make a lot of sense.
Really?
Because they don't really have somebody that has Cooper Kupp's skill set. Think about the receivers that they have on that team. You got George Pickens, you have a vertical threat in Calvin Austin. They don't really have like an underneath slot option. So in a perfect world, if money doesn't matter and draft resources didn't matter, I would actually love to see that. Whether the Steelers could pull that off, I think, is a different question.
I'm not a draft girly. I literally am a tabula rasa, blank slate, don't know anything yet, don't know about the combine, but I've understood this is not the quarterback draft class.
That's my understanding as well. And you and I are in the same boat when it comes to the draft.
You, me, and Chris Collinsworth. Chris was like, I got, we're just trying, we're so good at NFL stuff that we just sort of, we have to compartmentalize. But it feels like, and because you have to think, like, what do the Steelers want to do? Do they want to find their rookie? It doesn't seem like it because we're hearing that they were even looking at Trevor Lawrence this morning, right? Like, they're going to trade.
This does not seem like the draft to be looking for those guys. And I'm in the same place as you are. Like, I'm open about it. I have not. I did a show with Dane Brugler who does the draft better than anybody, in my opinion. I did the show with Dane today to break down his latest top 100 on The Athletic. And as I was reading through the top 100, that was my introduction to like 2/3 of the players on that list. Those names had never crossed my desk before. So I'm coming into this very much in the same way that you are. And in talking to him about the quarterbacks, it was funny watching the movement he had with some other players after his last big board in November. The quarterbacks did not move. And I think that was really telling. I think he's trying to prevent himself from talking himself into these guys. Oh, if you squint, maybe he is a top 10 pick. I just don't think he wants to do that with this group because they're not worth doing that for. And the Steelers, there's probably a little bit of scar tissue from the last time they did this. The last quarterback draft that felt like this was the Kenny Pickett draft. They took a guy in the 20s that maybe wasn't worth taking in the first round because there weren't any other options, and look how that turned out for them. So I think that's another one of those marginal moves that probably won't move the needle for a team that desperately needs to move the needle at that position.
And is Stafford enough is the question. They get Stafford. I don't know. That's why I've kind of threw the Kupp in there, because I do think that they need more than just a quarterback. They've got plenty of holes to fill, especially in that division. He is Robert Mays of the Athletic Football Show. We're going to take a TV break. We're going to talk through it because that's what we do on the program. And we'll get this content out live, of course, on YouTube, and we'll post it on Twitter and everywhere to get these takes out. Even though we get all your takes on your amazing show. If Stafford winds up in Pittsburgh, where does Russell Wilson go? I have been saying Vegas. I've just been hearing Vegas. It's kind of almost too cute to put him in Vegas. What do you think?
I think that makes sense because if you're the Raiders, I think I would want to spend not a lot on a quarterback this year and just kick the can until next year. And I think that Russell Wilson is a very good option for that. He knows Pete Carroll. He's not going to cost you a lot. So a stopgap option like that for a team that's in the Raiders position, I think that makes a ton of sense.
Is there this Trevor Lawrence thing I was not ready for this morning. So like what do you feel like there's some crazy like not talked about quarterback trade in the works potentially this year?
I mean, that one potentially makes sense if you are having real buyer's remorse. If you're the Jags, you have a new front office, you have a new coaching staff. And I actually misread some of the contract details this morning. If they trade him before March 22nd, it's only $30 million in dead money for the Jaguars.
Just $30 million.
Well, $30 million is not that bad for a single year of dead money. He would count $17 million against the cap if he's on the roster. So you would at least be able to field the team if you moved on from him. This is different than the Justin Herbert conversation from last year, where people were like, oh, would they trade Justin Herbert? They couldn't trade him. Like, there was no financial reality where that was possible. For the Jags, you could potentially do it. And so if you just wanted a really hard reset, it's potentially in the cards. I would be surprised by that. I think that Trevor Lawrence and the way that his contract is structured over the next 3 or 4 years, the cap hits are pretty manageable based on how they've built the deal. He's a young quarterback. I think that the circumstances he'll be in Liam Cohen's offense are probably better than any of the circumstances he's been to this point. I feel like you're going to be hard-pressed to improve or build. Like, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to improve on what Trevor Lawrence is for you right now, given his age, given the trajectory, everything else, and what's available at quarterback. Like, what are you going to do if Trevor Lawrence isn't your quarterback if you're the Jags?
Gosh, we'll see what happens. It's the off season, so it's time for Aaron Rodgers to start shine. This is his world. Loves the off-season headlines, and this is the latest. We have informed Aaron Rodgers we will be moving in a different direction at quarterback. This is a tweet this morning. I had not seen this. Let's start with what the market is for Rodgers.
It's going to be one of those teams that just needs a short-term answer at quarterback. I mean, if you're Tennessee, right, and you don't want to take a quarterback at 1, but you want to be a little bit more competitive this year, is he somebody that makes sense?
Does he want to go there?
I don't know how robust his market's going to be. Okay. I mean, he may not be picking between a bunch of different suitors given how last season went. But I think there's probably going to be some team out there that says, for 2025, he's the best that we can do. I don't think you want to commit to him for much longer than that, but as a stopgap option, I think that he's still probably got enough left in the tank to justify it.
Don't you think he would just walk away at that point? Like, if we're thinking about it from Aaron's lens, right? Like, where do you want to end your career? What kind of a situation? Like, he thought the Jets would be a contender. The Titans certainly not a contender, even if they get Aaron Rodgers, right? So I don't think stopgap is the energy that he would want to bring into 2025 in his 41st year on earth, 20 whatever at quarterback. Is there a world where I don't know, like, I'm thinking of just like a contender. Like, I haven't Niners is a thing. Have you heard this?
That to me seems not realistic. Like everything that they've said publicly, and they've been emphatic about how much they like Brock Purdy. I think this is going to be about figuring out the right price for Brock Purdy. I don't think this is going to be about seeking out another quarterback. And even if they can't come to some sort of resolution on the deal, he's still under contract for this year. Like Brock Purdy is going to be on the 49ers this year. So that one would surprise me. And the idea of him walking away, I totally get that. Now it becomes a question if you're Aaron Rodgers with, do you want that to be your last act in the NFL? Do you want the Jets publicly kicking you out the door to be the last thing that happens in your NFL career? Part of me thinks even if the circumstances are less than ideal in a place like Cleveland or Tennessee, wherever, he would want to try one more shot just to have the taste, whatever that taste from last year with the Jets, to get that out of his mouth before he moved on.
It'd be super fascinating. He'll dominate the headlines yet again. Are you happy with what I'm doing with the Packers? I know you're a Bears guy. I mean, I work in the front office. I'm bringing Devontae back. You know, Keyshawn Nixon's helping me. I'm trying to get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby. Like, are you happy with my work so far with the Packers?
I support it. I think if you look at that roster, they've done a really good job of building
McKinney
a solid group of players. That's a great move. It's a great start.
Thanks.
I think them and Buffalo, I kind of think of in similar ways, where if you look at the roster in totality, it's like, oh, that was a good bet. That was a good bet. That's a solid player. But if you think about the amount of difference makers they have compared to the elite teams in the league, there is a little bit of a gap. And so trying to do something this offseason where we can really put ourselves over the top, I think in both places, that's a worthwhile pursuit.
Adams to the Packers.
I love it. I totally support that.
I'm cooking on it. Hey, there's a Blink-182 concert at the Hollywood Palladium tonight. Should I go?
Yeah, if you can.
Okay.
The Palladium's a great venue. I fully support that.
Done. I'll be there. Take a look and watch and listen wherever you get your anything to the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Rob.